Okay, so few reminders. Um, I need all late work. I know I said Friday. I need all late work by Monday, okay, which is the last day before exams. Okay. So, but please, if you are turning in something late, I need you to email me and tell me. Right? I can't promise if you don't email me and tell me, I can't promise that I'm going to get that into the grade because I want you all to understand how much time that takes me to go through every single assignment, see who's missing it, and then type it in, and then go and search for it to see if you turned it in. All right, so I need you to email me and tell me if you've turned the stuff in. Right? I can't promise. And going along with that, I'm getting another uptick of like the messages of like, hi, Mr. Hook, I turned in this thing that was due a month and a half ago. Can you please grade it right now? All right. And I just, I just want you all to think about like when you ask teachers things, okay, think about how you are going about doing it. There sometimes seems to be a little bit of just a, what's the word for it? I'm blanking on the word. Like you just expect the teacher to just do it for you. Um, and it'd be nice to be like, can you please look at it whenever you get a chance? All right. Okay. Because you took your sweet ass time doing it. So I probably am too. All right. And then next class, we're going to work on the study guide. I'm going to put you in breakout rooms to work on that. There are, I would hope that people would be able to figure this out. But on the midterm page that I made, there are two study guides. One of them is called the midterm study guide, and then one of them is called the master study guide. The midterm study guide is 4 pages long. The master study guide is 38 pages long. Which one do you all think is the study guide for the midterm? Probably the midterm one. Yeah. Okay. The master study guide is a study guide that me and Miss Burton made 2 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe. Um, that is covers the entire class. Right. It's supplemental. I put it on there for you to use for studying purposes, but it is 38 pages long. Okay, so you don't need to print it off. The midterm study guide is the study guide for the midterm. I thought that would be self-explanatory, but it wasn't. Yeah, so make sure you have a copy of the study guide. There are copies out front of the school, um, out on the front table. They're in a manila folder that says AP Psych Midterm Study Guides. Um, or you can just print it off, or you can just do it on notebook paper. But I'm going to give five informal points for turning in the study guide this time, since there's no vocabulary to go with it. All right. Any questions there? All right. So last class we talked about the stages of sleep, NREM 1 through 3, where we, make sure that there are only 3 questions on sleep on the midterm. All right, but make sure you know what happens during each stage. Just like with the stages of development, make sure you know what happens at each stage. Now, sleep patterns. Do we think, I got to share my screen. Sorry about that. Okay. All right. So I thought that I was showing this the whole time, but I wasn't. Okay. All right. Does everybody need 8 hours of sleep per night? Is 8 hours necessary for every single person? All right. Okay. Maybe, yeah. by the time we get to adulthood, okay, 8 hours would be ideal, but some people can function on less than that. I function pretty well on about 6 hours or so. Um, if I'm asleep for more than about 8 hours, I will just automatically wake up. Okay, but everybody's different. There was like Leonardo da Vinci didn't even sleep for long. Da Vinci took like hour and a half long naps, like every 4 hours or something like that. Okay, but what controls our sleep patterns? Well, the biggest thing that controls our sleep patterns is the amount of light we are exposed to. Okay, um, there is a part of the hypothalamus. Okay, it's right kind of on the tip of the hypothalamus, kind of right behind the eyeballs, called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or the SCN. The suprachiasmatic nucleus is influenced by the amount of light that we are exposed to, and in terms, it controls the pineal gland, which is part of the endocrine system. And the endocrine system and the pineal gland is what controls the release of the hormone melatonin into your bloodstream. Melatonin is naturally released as you start being exposed to less and less light. So in the morning when you're exposed to light, the SCN suppresses the pineal gland. Okay. And then at night, as you're exposed to less light, right, it stimulates the pineal gland to produce melatonin. Now, this was perfect when before we had artificial light, we just went to bed when it got dark. Right? Now we're exposed to all of this artificial light. Okay. And so our pineal gland and the SCN are not necessarily working as well in terms of regulating our sleep patterns as they should be. What do they recommend? Like, what should you start doing like an hour before going to bed? No electronics, no screen time. Okay. And what else should you start doing like an hour before going to bed? There's something else they recommend. Come on, you guys, this is not. If your if your SCN responds to dimming lights, what should you start doing? Turning off the lights. Kind of turn off lights slowly to mimic like being outside. Okay. All right. But yeah, you shouldn't be expose yourself to too much light. Sure. My sleep schedule. I just got an Xbox, and so I'm sure that's going to keep me awake for longer than it should, longer than I should be staying awake. All right. So pineal gland releases melatonin, helps us fall asleep. Does anybody take melatonin at night? You can get it over the counter. It's all right to take it every once in a while, but what happens if you take it every night? Yeah, you get dependent, just like any other drug, you get dependent on it. What happens is when you start taking it every night, your brain stops, your pineal gland stops naturally producing it because it starts relying on the drug to take it. And so if you take it every night and then stop taking it, you're probably gonna have a hard time falling asleep for a couple days. I get really weird dreams when I take it too. I get like restless leg syndrome sometimes. All right. Now I want you to look at these. You don't have to write these down, okay? But I want you to look at these, and I want you to say, put in the chat after you read them. How many of these do you answer yes to? Okay, 6, 8, 8, 6, 5, 5, 9, 8, 9, 7, 10. Okay, all right. All right, wow. This class is very sleep deprived. All right. If you, and this is a real test, okay? This is used in sleep studies. If you answered yes to 3 or more of them, then that indicates at least moderate sleep deprivation, okay? And so we should all probably try to do something about that, because sleep deprivation, a lot of us like to think that we are like masters, that we've like mastered sleep. They're like, I can function perfect. People are like always like, you hear like people bragging like, I never sleep. Like I'm gonna sleep like 3 hours a night. Like, cool, dude. Like that, it's gotta suck. Okay, and you're gonna die at the age of 45 by doing that. Okay, sleep deprivation, we may not even notice, okay, the effects of sleep deprivation. It's kind of like the effects of, and I know none of y'all know this, but you get to where if you're drinking, you get to the point in drinking where you don't think that you're drunk anymore. Okay, with sleep deprivation, you can get to the point where you don't even realize that you are sleep deprived. Now, here's some of the physical effects of sleep deprivation. Right. So, sleep deprivation, being chronically sleep deprived, is heavily correlated with weight gain. Okay. Because when you are sleep deprived, your body produces it produces an increase of a hormone called ghrelin. Ghrelin is the hunger hormone. It makes you more hungry, right? And it actually makes you crave. So, how many of you all, if you stay up like really late, you're up at like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, right? How many of you all get hungry and snack around that time? Like you're like up playing video games or whatnot, and you go and get. Now, when you snack at that time, are you like getting carrots and kale out to eat? No. What are you probably snacking on? What are you eating? Nuggies. Okay. Uh, Most of y'all are probably, when you snack that late, you are eating things that are high in fat, high in carbs, and high in sugar. Because when we are sleep deprived, we actually crave candy and carbs and things like that. Okay. And when you stay up really late, so when we sleep, the body suppresses the production of ghrelin. But if you are not a can of baked beans, okay, that's not terrible. Um, yeah, but if you are not sleeping, your body does not produce ghrelin, is not producing ghrelin, and your body thinks like, oh, well, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I had dinner at 7 o'clock. It's time to eat again. And so, but you at that point, you're craving carbs and things like that. There's also a decrease in leptin, which is a hormone that suppresses hunger. So it's almost like when you are sleep deprived, everything is off balance. Um, Sleep deprivation slows our metabolism down, again, leads to weight gain. It increases cortisol levels, which is a stress hormone, and can cause hypertension, right? High blood pressure, and then you're higher risk of viral infection. You're more likely to get sick when you're sleep deprived. That's why you tend to get sick after a period of stress. All right. So these are kind of the physical effects of it, but we're going to have to watch a video here that looks more at like the cognitive and emotional effects of sleep deprivation. And I think you'll find this interesting. Oh, share. All right, so there you go, guys. I think it's really interesting that a deprived brain looks similar to a brain of somebody with a severe psychiatric disorder, such as bipolar disorder. Sleep deprivation has been directly linked to depression as well. And so, and you start hallucinating after about 2 or 3 days of sleep deprivation. So, all right, any questions there? All right, sleep disorders. Okay, insomnia. Um, insomnia is a persistent inability to fall asleep or stay asleep. Um, all of us have nights where we can't fall asleep, either because we are anxious about something, or maybe we took a nap that day or whatnot. And all of us have nights where we wake up in the middle of the night and can't fall back asleep. All right, but not all of us have this on a consistent basis. When it's on a consistent basis, it is insomnia. Um, and unfortunately, a lot of times for insomnia, they give you drugs, all right, and then that can sometimes make it worse because then you become dependent upon the drug, and a lot of times the drugs don't do anything, so you're just like kind of lying there in this kind of drug-addled state, but still wide awake. Okay, more common in adults than it is in children. I think most of y'all probably know what these are. So, narcolepsy. Narcolepsy is the opposite. People who are narcoleptic fall asleep randomly, without warning, often at inconvenient times, like when they are talking or standing up. They think that this is due to low levels of a neurotransmitter called orexin, which helps regulate our sleep, wakefulness, and appetite. The levels of orexin are off. But one of the things, and you're going to see this in a video we're going to watch, it's common with like when people who have it will fall asleep when they are bored, right? Which makes sense if they're just sitting there. But one of the other things that's interesting is oftentimes it is excitement that will trigger them to fall asleep. So there are reports of people who are mid orgasm during sex and they fall asleep during it. Like as they are having sex, they fall asleep, right? Because of the excitement. Um, if you think about like people with narcolepsy are like, oh, they must be very well rested because they fall asleep. They have what are called sleep attacks, which is where it's literally like sleep. They just go from being awake to just sleep. And you would think, oh, that's nice. No, it's not. And people who have narcolepsy are exhausted all the time because they're in that constant like groggy state. Kind of like, and it's kind of like I think when you're like sitting in class and maybe it's a warm classroom and you haven't gotten up and moved in a while and like you just kind of like your eyes, you're just like trying to like keep like doing that, like having those like micro sleeps, right? It's like that, just like, but they just can't help it. They can't control it. All right, so you're going to see This guy that you're going to see has severe narcolepsy. Most of the time, it's not this bad, all right, but this is what it looks like. All right, so there you go. Okay, narcolepsy, just fall asleep randomly. All right, and then lastly, sleep apnea. Sleep apnea, most common in males. About 24% of adult males have sleep apnea. And then it is also more common in people that are what? Uh, it's more common with people that are older, but there's another thing that makes it that is it's not all of them, but not everybody who has it. All right, but people who are come on, somebody knows this. People who are you all have heard this before, who are overweight. Okay, more common in people that are overweight. But what it is people with sleep apnea, their larynx closes up throughout the night. So they go through like periods of not breathing. And then they will go through periods from going from not breathing to gasping for air and snoring really, really badly. And then they'll stop breathing again. And this happens sometimes hundreds of times a night. And because of this, and they don't wake up from it, right? But it interrupts their sleep cycle. So people with sleep apnea are chronically sleep deprived, but they might not know why. Okay, it might be like, I got 10 hours of sleep. Why am I still so tired? And it could be because they're stopping breathing throughout the night. Okay, I actually both of my parents have sleep apnea, and I need to do a sleep study because I think I have it as well. I snore really bad. So, but a lot of times the only way that somebody knows that they have it is if somebody tells them that they are snoring. It is they have sleep apnea is very dangerous if it's not treated. It's been linked to obesity. It's been linked to diabetes, high blood pressure, right? All of these different things. All right. Are there any questions about any of those? All right. Then lastly, okay, the ones that are more common in children, night terrors, we talked about last time, where kids will look like they're awake. They'll get up and be screaming and whatnot, um, but they are not actually awake. All right, they are dead asleep. Most of the times they don't remember it. It's most common in young boys. Sleepwalking, okay, get up and walk around. Sometimes people will do it to the point where they like go and get food out of the fridge or whatnot. It's usually very robotic behaviors. And then sleep talking. This is just when we talk in our sleep. Okay. All of these, none of these are particularly dangerous or anything. Um, has anybody ever heard the like never wake up a person who's sleepwalking? Okay, like that's made up. You can wake them up. It's fine. It's just because it might scare them, but they're not going to like freak out. Um, okay, and all of these, for the most part, are during no, not stage four. I keep writing that. There's not a stage four. Stage three. There used to be a fourth stage, but they just combined them. All right, so here's a quick little video before I let you go on what are called parasomnias, which are all of these different things. All right. So there you go. Okay, parasomnias. I was going to show, and I showed the just to finish up the sleepwalking scene from Step Brothers in first block, but nobody seemed to know what it was, and so uh, it is. I guys, if you haven't seen Step Brothers is one of the greatest comedies of all time. Will Ferrell and what's the other guy's name? Can't remember. I don't know, but Step Brothers is fantastic. we always watch it as a family, like over Christmas. All righty, guys. So next class, we're just gonna um, I'm just gonna have you all working on the study guide for the synchronous time. Okay, so make sure to have a copy of that. And yeah, that is